Welcome to Campus Conversations, brought to you by UCL Student Success Team, your go-to podcast for all things about student life at University College London. We're back for Season 2, and today we'll be talking about modern society and culture change. I'm Amman, and I'm a fourth-year medic.
I'm Mubaraq, and I'm a second-year law student.
I'm Kat, and I'm a first-year geography student.
So here's our new segment. The UK Advertising Standards Authority has issued a warning to advertisers to avoid using images that promote unhealthily thin models, calling some current campaign images irresponsible. A recent M&S advert was banned by them because it featured a model with a dangerously slim physique, while a Vogue report noted that 97% of catwalk models were between UK sizes 4 and 8. Question. How do you feel about beauty standards in the UK? Has it become more inclusive of difference or reductive to a single type?
I feel like on one hand, there is more being done. For example, you see Victoria's Secrets, they're doing more runway models with disabilities, different races, different sizes. I think you had like Fenty Beauty release out more different shades. Different hair textures are being shown on TV. Cool, sure, yes, fine. But I then also think that we're constantly replacing one ideal with another ideal, like constantly. So then this idea of like what's perfect and perfection is like, it's constantly changing as well. Although like the definition of perfect itself is kind of expanding. But we're never going to reach the state of like perfect because we're constantly going from, oh, maybe perfect is being white, blonde, and a size 0 to now perfect is being hourglass, slim, thick, X, Y, and Z. And then next year it's going to be this. And you're constantly trying to keep up with these trends. And then it's like, wait, but what? So what actually is perfect? I feel like that's constantly changing. So I therefore think that no. Is there a beauty standard? What is the beauty standard? Is it just like based on what's this year's beauty standard? What's next year's going to be? So I think that's the way that I interpreted it.
I feel like for me it's like a tricky thing to think about because I mean a lot of the time I'm using ad blockers, so I'm not seeing any adverts like that. And even then I'm a male, so I'm not being targeted adverts that usually feature beauty standards and things like that. Although it's very subconscious too, I think. So I'm probably seeing them without realizing. Like even when you're shopping online for clothes, it's all modeled by usually like really attractive models. So that's kind of where it fits in. But I think the change that we're seeing now is that, like at least for me, a lot of my advertising comes from like sponsorships and things I'm actively choosing to watch. I feel like because of that, it's a role model that I've already chosen. So although it's another beauty standard, it's a beauty standard that I've actively like, oh, I think this is interesting. I want to engage with that content, which is kind of maybe a benefit of the internet age. I don't know if you agree that that's a thing that happens.
Has anyone heard about the term looks maxing?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's an interesting angle to this conversation. So I think the question focuses a lot on like women, right? And like beauty, and I feel like the beauty standard for women has been a thing that women like it's been a thing like it's cemented. But I would say I think with social media lately, we're seeing a rise now in a new form of beauty standard, and I think it's because for the first time in a long time, well, the first time really ever, I think for males as well, being good looking is now also a social currency. And I think that goes hand in hand with beauty standards in general. You're trying to have the best currency. And I think because of things with social media now, you want to post the best looking photo of yourself. The next person wants to post an even better photo. So that way you get that virality. So I think because now we have those quick forms of content when it's content, who can do the next shocking thing? So if someone's really, really like lean, for instance, the next person will want to be even leaner because their photo will go more viral. So I think when we look at like the commodification of looks via the term looks maxing, that's what people are trying to do. People are constantly trying to max. What can I do better? What can I do next? So I think that is where the problematic nature of it. I don't think, because the whole value of looks essentially is scarcity, is to be rare, is to be striking. And I think because now we're seeing so many faces on a daily basis, it's like to get that striking, to get that rareness, you have to go to further and further extremes. And I think advertising only reflects that.
This advertising standards authority, they don't really have any play in that anymore. Like it's a whole new like playground where no one's really moderating who's looks maxing or doing any of that. So they can like keep on going further and further and further. And then what's going to be the consequence of that? Who's in charge of that? Because like, you might, I don't know, you're a law student, who's in charge of that?
But I think that's what it is with TikTok now. Obviously, there's terms like regulations for how you post adverts on TikTok, but even that, it's a relatively new market. And where before it was companies working with advertising companies, now it's companies working with individuals in their room. So I think there hasn't been a proper sort of framework to properly make sure that advertisers that like are just picking up their phone are being healthier, or understand the implications of what they put out there, how that's affecting youth, adults, how that's affecting current trends. So I think for the first time in a long time, we have celebrities with the same amount of celebrity power, but without the sort of team behind them that make sure that that image is a safe image to put out. So I think that's probably one of the issues.
I think it's this idea and feeling of constant comparison. As much as you might think, and sure, this might be true for some people, it might not. It's like as much as you think, oh yeah, I'm really confident in how I look, or I'm really happy about how I look, and then I'm okay, cool, fine. It's like you still find yourself comparing yourself to people around you, people on social media, people who maybe have more money, who it's this constant comparison that you're never going to get out of. And it's like, oh, but do I look good enough? Or do I look good enough standing next to this person? Or if I post this, is it good enough compared to this person? Or and it's like you feel like you're never going to escape that. So I think that's a very real thing that people experience and people feel, and that people might not be open to, like actually sharing, like, you know, yeah, I don't think I look good enough compared to this person. Whereas really in reality, that person's thinking the exact same thing. So you're thinking, oh, I don't think I look good like compared to this person. This person's thinking, I don't look good compared to that person. So I think that makes it so much more difficult because you don't know what the other person's feeling, whilst it's making you feel like the worst feeling.
A couple months ago, I was looking through my mom's old photos, and like she took a lot of photos as well. But it's like I can look back on photos of her from her 20s now and be like, oh, mum, when did this happen? But I find that a lot of people are really reluctant to take photos of themselves because of a fear of how they look or how they looked in that photo. I look bad, but I think a lot of people forget that beyond how you look in a photo, it's capturing the memory as well. Because in 10 years' time, you're not going to look back and think, oh, I looked a little bit strange in that photo. You're just going to look back on the memory. So I think there's a reluctance now to actually, you know, capture your memories because you're so concerned in how you look. And I think a lot of people are going to look back on periods of their life and wonder, why do I have no memory of this at all? But it's because you were so concerned with how you look that you kind of preferred not capturing on what you looked in the moment, but now you feel like you don't have physical proof of that memory anymore. So I think that's why I've been trying to be really intentional about capturing memories, because 20 years from now, I'll be like, oh, what did I do in university? What was I doing on this day? And I'd like to have, you know, evidence of that to be able to like reminisce. And I think if I'm always worried about how I look, or I don't like the way this looks, I don't like the way that looks, it like prevents me from having that blessing in the future.
The death of the photo album is such a tragic part of our generation. Like, I remember as a kid, like, looking through our photo albums at home and be like, oh, that was me when I was 2, that was me when I was 3, and now that's it. There's nothing beyond that point. It's very sad. According to ONS data, less than half of adults in England and Wales are married or in civil partnerships in 2024. Meanwhile, cohabitating couple households are on the rise, and more people are living alone. Furthermore, the numbers of people in non-traditional, non-monogamous relationships have significantly increased. So, are traditional family values still valuable, or are they incompatible with modern life? Do you know what ONS means?
Office for National Statistics.
That one. You're right.
I think so. My view, I think when people say traditional family values, oftentimes they're talking about like the past, essentially. Like they want sort of those man goes to work, provides for his family, woman stays at home, looks after the children, like that very sort of, I guess in England it would be like a very Christian image of what husband and wife should be like and what the home should look like. So yeah, I think it's just like that nuclear parent system, very traditional in that sense.
I think values such that instill good characteristics in you to make sure that you navigate the world as a better person, I think those are important. And I feel like most of those do come from your upbringing and your surroundings. So I think instilling in yourself respect for everyone, instilling in yourself humility and those characteristics, I feel like those are important. But then when you take concepts and structural factors like nuclear households or those gender roles, those I think are outdated in modern times.
Yeah, I agree. Like the fact of, the way you're saying how they make you like care for each other and they make you like feel a responsibility over the person you choose to love. Like that's an important thing to have, and seeing it like modeled in your past is a good way of doing it. But then when it forces you to be like, oh, once you get married, you're not gonna have a job. That's probably crossing a line at that point, I think. Yeah. Do you think they're incompatible with modern life?
I just wanted to add one like small caveat.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes one of the issues that I think we fall into when we talk about traditional values, like I don't personally think there's anything wrong with that. I think everyone should be able to live their life with how they want to live and find a partner who who also shares the same views. I think that's normal. But I think what tends to happen is an over-glamorization in the sense that a lot of people focus on the top 1% of traditional families back then. So granted, something like women, like poor women, for instance, have always worked alongside her husband to try and gain some sort of income. And I think in a lot of cultures as well, it's not unheard of that women, or like poor women, would have worked alongside their husband. So oftentimes when people want a traditional family household, they're forgetting that element, that they're going to be as they are now. So if you're not rich, if you're not the top 1% now, like chasing after family values isn't going to make you the top 1% now either. So I think that's one small thing. But I think in a modern society, traditional family values can exist. I genuinely don't think there's anything inherently wrong with them, because I think there are differences between the sexes that naturally will occur, just because, especially if a woman wants to have children, there's differences in like maternity and things like that. So I think there are differences between, but I don't think it should be imposed on anyone to live a life in a certain way. I think everyone should have the right to determine how they want to live their life, how they want to raise their children, as long as it's not harming anyone.
I think one point that comes about is you mentioned maternity, for example. And I think now when a lot of people think that men should have much longer paternity leave, and men's paternity leave is very short. People are like, oh, but as a father, I want to spend as much time with my newborn child as well. So if we take it back to that historical element of where men had to provide, that opportunity for them to stay at home wouldn't have been as accessible. So I feel like as times progress, we do kind of have to progress these family values just as a natural course of things are changing, and we can accept that things are changing. We don't need to be stuck in such a rigid structure. So I think in that sense, there will be some changes that people, if they want, can be willing to accept as, yeah, this is right and this can be the new norm for you as a soul. It doesn't have to be a societal thing, but it's like, oh, knowing that, yeah, I can take that personally if I want to, and if I feel like that's how I want to live now, my family thing, like that's okay.
I guess the way they're incompatible with modern life would be in the sense that like living a good life is kind of incompatible with modern life, where you can't get a job as easily right now. You have to pay more rent right now. You have to pay more for bills. I think that's why people aren't, like it's saying here that people aren't marrying as often, but they're still living together as couples. I think it just comes down to money more than anything else, in my opinion. Like a wedding seems expensive. I don't know if I think people are deprioritizing like the whole, I need to get married and do that before I live together kind of thing. On that note then, let's go over to our campus confession. So this comes from a real student. As a man, the expectation from my family and culture is to find a job after graduation, find a wife, have some babies, and take care of the household. But how? Capitalised how. Average graduate salary is just over 30k in London. The dating scene is a mess, and mortgage deposits are 5 times the average salary. I don't mean to be negative, but it does feel kind of hopeless. Anyone feeling the same, or are you feeling more hopeful?
I live my life as an optimist, so I just don't believe in speaking like dread over my life like that. But yeah, that's my take. Like, I think if this person is worried, they should just, like, me and my friends have a saying. We always say just pack it in, like, as in like sometimes like all this worrying and dread, I feel like it's not gonna help his outlook. If this isn't really what if he wants to know, if he knows he wants to have kids, get married, then I think he just kind of has to hustle harder if that's an ambition that he wants to have. Like,
I think that's so hard because I feel like, first of all, this overthinking thing of like, as much as we don't want to think 5 years down the line, it's a very real thought of like, oh wait, but how am I going to get a job and how am I going to have a family and kids? And that's like a very real thing for like some people that's constantly on their minds. And I feel like everyone's on their own path and journey in life, and like you're at your own pace and your own speed, and you have a different destination to like me, you, and you. So I think it's okay not to know like where exactly on that path you are, and I feel like that's okay. I feel like sometimes it is okay to recognize, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and like that's actually okay, and being able to admit, yeah, I'm struggling, or I don't know where I'm going to be exactly in 5 years' time, like that's okay to be in that position.
I think his main worry seems to come from his like family and cultural pressure too, which is a tricky one to manage. Like I've never like, even though I've been surrounded by those ideas from a young age, I've never like really subscribed to it. I don't care about the whole you have to do this, you have to like do that at that point. But I do get that it's a big thing that pushes people to like panic and make bad decisions probably.
but I think this is the thing about life. Like, as much as family will have an influence, like you're the only person that's gonna suffer. You'll suffer. Mm-hmm. So if you make a bad decision because your family pressured you into it, you're the only one that's gonna have to bear the brunt of it. So I think it's about making logical decisions. If you can't afford this certain thing, or you're not in a position to get married and have kids, don't get married and have kids, even if your family feels like that's the best thing for you, because only you know what it is like to wear your own shoes. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to suffer from it. So I think it's about being a little bit selfish sometimes and making the best decision for you in that moment.
I agree. I feel like rushing into something just out of pressure is so bad for you and eventually everyone who's surrounded by you, whether that be your future wife, whether that be eventually your family, and most importantly yourself. I feel like rushing into something just because you're pressured to do it, feel like you have this burden that you have to lift off, I think is quite damaging.
Why do you think people struggle so much to detach from those family expectations?
Because I feel like you have this idea that family is everything, like that is your all, like you've grown up with your family, like that has been your support system, that's been your base, everything they've taught you, you feel like, yeah, that's come from them. So I feel like you trying to detach the way that maybe you feel like your family has lived all this time, and it's like, how do I say like, yes, it's okay to step away from what you think is right because I now think that this is right. I feel like people are so strongly attached to not wanting to disappoint their family. I think that's such a big thing, to being like, but I don't think this will, like, okay, it might disappoint them in terms of like, yeah, it's not agreeing with what they agree with, but the end result is I'm going to be happy and I'm going to have success defined in my own terms. I think that's something.
Yeah. So I guess our advice for him would probably just be like, take a breather. What was you saying? Pack it in.
Yeah.
Pack it in. It's okay. You don't need to get married right now. You don't need to think. You can think about the job, but you don't have to worry about the mortgage when you don't have the job, when you don't have the house, when you don't have the spouse. Think one thing at a time. Pack it in.
No one's chasing you. Like, you actually be okay.
Thank you for tuning in to Campus Conversations. We hope you had as much fun listening as we did chatting. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe on our various podcast streaming platforms, link in the bio. We'll be back again with more stories, ideas and debates from across UCL, exploring the people and perspectives shaping our university and world. Until next time on Campus Conversations.